Is that water? Is that something else? Hi NanaBoos, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I welcome you with warm, open arms. It's never too late to join the NanaBoo family, so please click on that subscribe button down below, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you are alerted every time I post a new video. And for the returning subscribers, thank you so much for staying. I appreciate you guys so much. So I promised you guys more content this year, like lots and lots of content. So I haven't done a story time for you guys in a while, and I thought that it would be nice for me to do a story time today. So I hope that you guys enjoyed the story. Well, let's get right into it. The plot for the story, basically, I was 10 and I was 10 years old. Let's just highlight that. It was just like I was 10 years old. It was just like maybe a year and a half after my parents passed away. I'm saying a year and a half to accommodate for both of them because they died 9 months apart. So it was like maybe a year or maybe like a few months after one of them passed away, then a year for another. I don't know if you guys get me. So I used to live with my parents in a very big village. This village, it's called Seroe here in Botswana. It's called Seroe. It's in the central district of the country. It's a very large village. So we used to live there as a family with all my siblings and stuff. And then when they passed away, we moved out. Well, we as in like the siblings, we moved out into a different home in Seroe as well. So we needed to get like a big sort of accommodating home because my parents' things were quite a lot, and we didn't give away anything when they passed away. Like we just kept their things. So we moved into like a medium-sized kind of house, 3-bedroomed, average I would say house. And this house was literally in it was in a new area. I don't know if you guys are aware, like for instance, let's say there's like a big residential area, maybe in a certain location, in a certain area, let's say in Gabs or wherever you are staying, right? And then when people want to like sort of like expand that area, you know, and there's like this huge piece of bush land, right? And people are like spreading into another area, you know, like building homes into that specific area or whatever. I don't know if you guys get me. So we moved into a house that was the appropriate size, but this house was located in a very newly developing area. Like the area was slowly developing. Like we're literally, the house that we're staying in was the only complete house in the area at that point, at that moment. So like surrounding the house is like bush, and it's like dusty road from the main road to the house. It's important why I'm saying this. So it's like dusty road from right from the main road to the house. So like you would get off the main road, which is tarred road, and drive onto the dusty road for maybe like 3-4 minutes. But if you're walking, it's like, I don't know, 6-7 minutes or 8 minutes roughly if you're walking from the main road to the house. So yeah, that's how it was. And the house was literally at the center. I don't, maybe not necessarily at the center, but like so quite far from the main road. I don't know why we thought this was safe, but maybe because the house was like, you know, the electric fence and the walls and stuff, and we felt like it was kind of safe. So my siblings and I, we lived here, but like we didn't necessarily live there because when my parents died, my siblings, we all went to different places. I was staying with my aunt. Some of my siblings were living overseas already. Some of my other siblings were like working elsewhere, schooling. It was just busy, right? So my older sister's daughter was at the house. Like she had a baby. At that time I was 10, the baby was maybe 2.5, I think almost 3, but like it's probably 2, yeah, somewhere there. So I'm gonna call the baby Bata, but you guys are gonna meet the baby like pretty soon. Like if I get to film with her, I would definitely introduce her to you guys because she's literally the only niece I've spent so much time with. I don't have many nieces and nephews, so like I'm always excited to hang out with my niece. I'm gonna call her Bata for the sake of the story, but you guys will definitely meet her someday. So my older sister, Bata's mom, was living elsewhere, like she was working elsewhere, and Bata was staying at the house. She was 2.5, but Bata we had a house help, obviously, to stay with Bata, right? And I'm gonna give the house help let me give her a name. I'm gonna call her Mary. Okay, I'm gonna call her Mary. Yeah, so Mary was living with Bata in the house, and everybody else was staying wherever they're staying. So I was living with my aunt at that time, and like this was before I went to boarding school. So usually I would be with my aunt, and then during the holidays I would come here to the family home, you know, where all my siblings, we could just, you know, meet at home, you know. It's basically all my parents' stuff was there. We basically just moved there, and you know, so yeah. So I would come here for the holidays, right? So what happened was that, okay, cool. I left Gabs, like 10-year-old me, guys. I had to be a grown-up, okay? I had to grow up. And 10-year-old me got into a bus, right? I got into a bus and went all the way to Soroe. So Gaborone is where I'm staying, which is the capital city of the country. It's 4.5 hours away by bus from Soroe. So I got into the bus, I went to Soroe. And when I got to Soroe, I got into a taxi that took me home, right? Remember, this place is a newly developing area, like it's developing. There are no houses at all, like people don't stay there. It's literally the bush and us. And that specific day, I noticed that the house that was literally next to ours, our neighbor, just moved in, because the house was just empty, and then they just moved in the day that I arrived. So Bata's mom got me airtime, right? Bata's mom got me airtime, and I was like, okay, I was excited. 10-year-old me, just like, okay, airtime, who am I going to be calling? Like, so I didn't actually use the airtime just yet, but I was excited, like, that I had airtime. So I was like, I can't wait to call or whatever. Anyway, so I get home, I find Mary and Bata. I'm excited to see Bata. You know, I only have 2 nieces and a nephew, so like being an aunt, I mean, I can't really say like I know what I'm doing, because I didn't really raise Bata or the other 2, like my nephew and my niece, right? I wasn't there most of the time, but like I did bond with Bata a lot. Like she's one of my closest nieces, right? So cool, I'm excited to see Bata. I'm playing with her. I mean, 10-year-old me, I'm a kid, right? I'm a child, so I'm entertaining a baby, and I'm so okay with that. Mary is, you know, she's watering the garden. It's a normal day for us. It's just normal. Excited that I'm home. Mary's around, I'm around. It's literally just us. Where are my siblings? God knows where. Like, those guys never showed up, never came home. But anyway, so fine. It's late at night now, and it's getting late. And then Mary tells me that she's not quite feeling well, so she wants to go and sleep early. She's tired. I was like, okay, it's fine. So there are 3 bedrooms in the house, right? 3 bedrooms in the house. So there's one room where Mary and Bata were sleeping. So like I said, my parents had a lot of things. So there are 2 beds in that room. There's a double bed, and then there's a bunk bed, which my siblings used to use. So like I was 10, I'm a kid. I really couldn't sleep in a room by myself. So I was still having that fear, like, yo guys, still even up to today, I am still afraid of the dark. I am afraid of the dark. Disclaimer. Like, even in my house, if I'm sleeping by myself, I literally have the corridor light on. I have to all night, because I just can't. Everywhere I go, like, I can try to sleep with the lights off, but if there's somebody that's sleeping with me, cool, I've got no problem. But if I'm by myself, it's not happening. It's not happening. So this is what happened. The rooms, there are 3 bedrooms, so Butter and Mary are sleeping in one room, so I joined them, right? I slept on the bunk bed when they slept on the double bed, right? And then there's a room next to Mary and Butter's room, which is one of my sister's rooms. I think she just adopted it. You know, her siblings are always fighting for rooms, so that room is next to that one, and then there's a master bedroom, right? So Mary and Butter's room is opposite the toilet, it's opposite the loo, right? So it's like past 12 now. We've been asleep for some time. I think we went to sleep around 8. Maybe we went to sleep around maybe 7-ish. You know, I remember the story very like in detail and vividly because there's something that happened in my life that caused a division. When my parents died, I started to like sort of group things, like my memory sort of started to group things from after they died and also before. So like because of that dramatic transition between having them around and not having them around, I have a very sharp memory with the things that happened to me around that time, because my life completely changed, you know? So I remember a lot of things that happened just maybe 2-3 years, 4 years after they died, and then also a lot of things that happened like 2 years before they did, you know. It's just like that transition, it kind of made things, you know, so my memory is just like, you get me? Anyway, so I remember the time was like past 12 or whatever. I remember checking the time when I was from the toilet now. So I woke up half asleep, like I'm just like this. I walked to the toilet, I get to the toilet. So I'm in the toilet after flashing and stuff. I'm literally also still half asleep, right? And then I noticed that the other bedroom, the one next to Mary and Butter's room, the light is on. I'm like, what's going on here? So I'm like, okay, I'm looking, and then I start hearing like moaning sounds, right? I hear moaning sounds, and I'm just like, what's going on? So maybe I didn't mention, but Mary is pregnant, right? I don't know how far along she was. I mean, I'm 10, like what am I doing with that kind of information? I just know Mary is carrying a baby, that's it, new baby into the world, done. So I look, I find Mary's leaning against the bed, and she's moaning, she's crying, she's like, I could tell she's in pain, but like she's giving soft moans. So she's like, it's very painful, clearly. I ask her, like, Mary, what am I supposed to do? She's like, no, nothing, go to sleep. I'm like, but you're on the floor, you're leaning against the bed, like you left our room to come here to cry and moan and stuff. Like, what am I supposed to do? She's like, no, nothing, go sleep. So when she says go sleep, Butter wakes up. She's crying her lungs out. I have to fix Butter a bottle. Okay? So I'm like, you know what? Butter's crying her lungs out. I can't leave her alone. I put Butter on my back. I give her the bottle. I'm trying to like talk to Mary, find out what I'm supposed to do. Mary's not really responding well. I could tell she's in so much pain. So you know what? I grab my phone, use the airtime that I was so excited about getting earlier, call the ambulance. So I tell the ambulance, okay, no, cool. We're staying in this area, right? And the ambulance is like, fine, we'll be there in 10 minutes. Something got into my eye. Yeah. The ambulance is like, okay, no, don't worry, we'll be there in 10 minutes. Okay, cool. But then I remember that this place where we are staying, Ghana, it's a bit of a distance from the main road. 1, 2, there's bush right round. Like you couldn't see our house. If you're at the main road, you're just gonna see like a little dot of light and be like, oh, maybe there's a house there. Because it wasn't visible. That's just how much bush there was around. Although there was like a gravel road that if you knew where we stay, you would use. There's something in my eye. So I was just like, oh my goodness, they're gonna get lost. Like, how am I gonna direct them? How am I gonna tell them where? This is a new area. It's literally just us here. Like, what am I gonna do? So I'm like, they're gonna get lost, right? They're definitely gonna get lost. So what am I gonna do? So whilst I'm thinking about what am I gonna do, trying to keep Butter quiet, I'm just like bouncing up and down. Mary is like, okay, let me go to this living room. So she's still in pain. I can tell she's in pain. a part of me wasn't sure what's about to happen. Like, is she getting into labor? Like, what's going on? So I was just like, maybe she's just in pain. So she sits in the living room. She sits on a chair, like on the dining table. I'm standing there with butter on my back, like trying to get her to sleep, bouncing up and down. And then Mary's water breaks. By the way, I'm 10. I don't know anything about water breakings and all that. I'm just like, what is going on? Is that water? Is that something else? Is she peeing on herself? What's happening? What is happening? So I tell her that I called the ambulance. Then she's like, yeah, go get the bag. I'm like, what bag? Like, she's in pain, guys. She's not able to like talk to me properly. I'm like, what bag? She's like, the bag. I'm like, okay, fine. I hurry to the room. I get to the room. I find that she meant the bag, like that has got the baby stuff. I give it to her. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna have to go get the ambulance, right? So just thinking about it, I'm just like, oh no, the ambulance is not gonna know that that's a house, because from the main road, you can't even see our house. That's just how much the bush and you know how dark it is in that area, because there's no, like, it's a residential area, yes, but it's developing. Like, there's nobody now. They're just plots, right? People are building. There's nothing, ne? So it's just bush and stuff. So I literally walk out with butter on my back at 10 years old, guys, like in the middle of the night. It's like literally just after 1 a.m. right now, maybe quarter past, somewhere around 1 a.m. And I remember walking, right? I was walking. That 8-minute walk felt like a 20-minute walk, okay? In the dark. I wasn't even scared that what if I get robbed? What if I get attacked? What if I get raped? Nothing. I was just worried about the fact that Mary is crying, and what if I get there and I find Mary's dead? Like, that's the first thought that comes to my mind, because honestly, at this point, death has caused me some trauma, and all I can think about is death, right? So I'm walking to the main road. I've got butter on my back. She's being what's this? She's nagging. Is it nagging? Is the word nagging? She's being you know, she's being irritated. She's irritated by the fact that we're walking and whatever. I don't know. Maybe she wants to sleep. I'm not sure. So she's on my back. I'm walking. I'm literally rubbing shoulders with cattle, right? With cows in the middle of the night. In a bush. And I didn't even notice that there were cows until like I heard that bell, you know, the bell on the neck. And I'm literally rubbing shoulders, like, to that extent, guys, like literally bumping into cows. And I was just worried. All I could think about was Mary and the baby. That's it. Whatever happens to me, I didn't care. I'm walking towards the main road. I get to the main road. I'm peeking. I'm looking for the ambulance. Nothing. No ambulance. It's 1 a.m. Mary might be in labor. Like, I don't know what's going on with Mary. I'm 10. Like, what do I do? I'm a kid. And I'm just like, what am I gonna do? Should I stay here? Should I wait here? I'm like, what if I get back and I find that Mary's dead? So I'm just like, you know what? I walk back. And then I remember that, oh, when I came today, the neighbors were moving in, right? So like, one thing you guys should know is that I grew up, English was my first language. My mother was Zimbabwean, my dad was from Ghana. My mother's mother is Botswana. I was born here, yes. I was born in Botswana. But my first language was English, right? So when I did go to Gabs and lived with my cousins and stuff, like, they would speak Setswana to me, which I could some sort hear, but I couldn't, like, you know, speak, right? So expressing myself, I always express myself in English, right? So I went next door, I knocked on the door, and an old lady opens. She's not old. I would say that looking back at it, she's probably like in her late 50s. She opens the door, and I'm struggling to tell her like what's happening. So I say it in the lamest of sentences. Like, I don't know if I said something like she's giving birth, or she wants to give birth. Translated, I said something like ubata go thola. That's exactly what I said. And I remember that looking back at it like a few years after, I was like, oh my gosh, that's not what I should have said. Anyway, they understood me. She understood me, and then she called her older son. So it was just the two of them. It was her and her older son. So she called her older son and she said they should come to our house. So we walked to our house at night. At night. You know what? Or just like, okay, they asked me about the ambulance. I tell them that I called the ambulance. They're like, okay, just stay here. Let's go wait for the ambulance. I'm like, no, I can't stay here. Like, first of all, I'm traumatized because now Mary seems to be wanting to push the baby out. Like, she looks so pressed that she's even like pushing already, you know? And I was so traumatized because then Mary literally just laid on her back. She laid on her back, opened her legs, and all I could see was hair. Hair. And I'm not sure if that was the baby's hair or her hair. Like, I don't know. But I remember that all I saw was hair. I'm like, okay, fine, cool. I leave with the lady and her son. We walk back to the main road. We get there. We still no ambulance, still nothing. I call the hospital. The hospital tells me, like this time I call, put it on speaker, right? And then the lady's talking. And then the hospital was saying, no, they long sent out the ambulance and the ambulance guy doesn't have a phone. Imagine. I was just like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? So anyway, we go to the main road, we're waiting. We're like, we can't wait any longer. Then we see this Taz, the Taz, blue Taz. It's coming from a nearby village called Baje. And we notice that this Taz is playing loud music. So we, whoa, sorry, stop. Taz stops. And we're like, no, we need a ride to the hospital. He's like, you guys better not mess my car. This guy was drunk from the club. Drunk from the club, like disaster in the making. But we had to make it happen. He drove us to the house. We get to the house, and we drove to the house. We get to the house. Mary gets in. I put Mary's bag. I'm still carrying butter on my back. And we finally get to the hospital, and the main hospital. So when we get there, the nurses put Mary in a wheelchair, and then Mary says to me, thank you so much for being so brave for helping me. Like, if it wasn't for you, what was I gonna do? And I said, okay, you're welcome. And then Taz guy obviously left, and the lady that was with and her son, we got a ride from, I think, some stranger or something. We just asked, can we please get a ride? Then they dropped us at the main road, and then we walked up to our homes. So when we got to the home, to my house, the lady was like, can you please come sleep with us? Because you are a child, like, we can't leave you there. Can you sleep with us for a few days? And then, you can move back to your house, like, when Mary is back, right? And I had tried calling my sisters, by the way, when this was happening. None of them were answering. First of all, it was late at night. We managed to get to the hospital around like 3 a.m. So like this probably took an hour, 3 a.m. to 4 a.m., 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. basically. So 2 hours, some minutes, this whole period, this was happening, So we managed, we got there. We managed, and I went to get my things from my house, and for butter, and then we slept with the lady and her son, and we slept there for like 2 days. And when Mary came back, Mary told me that she named her daughter Faith because she thought that she was in the toughest of situations and she doesn't know what's going to happen, and she just has faith that everything will go well and she will, give birth to Faith, properly, and everything will just happen so seamlessly and perfect. So that was what she was telling me. She told me that she named her Faith, and she would love to even give her like a name her after me. She's gonna be calling her Nana and stuff, because she just feels like if it weren't for me, things wouldn't have turned out the way they did. And I was so happy for Mary. I was so happy for Mary. I think we stayed I stayed there for like a few days until I came back to Gabs. I went back to Gabs to go to school and stuff. So that's what happened, guys. That is what happened. That is the most bravest moment in my life. Like, I don't remember being that brave like ever. Like, I remember being brave a couple of times with a couple of situations, but that kind of brave, like, I feel like at that point I was so brave. I really did, you know, do what I needed to do. Right, so that brings us to the end of our story time, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this story. I am looking forward to telling you guys more and more and more stories. So please click the like button if you like the story, and do a comment. Don't forget to share, and also don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Please join the NanaBoo family. All right, I love you guys. See you guys next time. Bye, NanaBoos. Mwah.